meeting that I had recently too. It's one of those times, it's kind of like this dead zone. You know, a lot of people are coming and going. There's clubs, there's after school. We're going to have to come up with something. Right now, the only door we have open is the door down by our after school program. That's the only door that should be open. I have kept it open a little bit during conference time to allow parents to get in and out of the building this month. But for the most part, we have locked the front doors at about 4 o'clock usually, and then the only access point is down there. Clubs, most of our teachers will be taking our children outside.
We have to go, yeah.
Yeah, so what we may have to do, though, is have our teacher walk them out. But we'll have to come up with some sort of process because, yeah, if you can't get in, you can't be held accountable for that. We'll figure that out. Yeah. You had your hand up?
Oh, yes. Once the fobs are activated,
yes,
then there won't be propping the door open?
Well, they shouldn't have the doors propped open anyway. Like, anytime I see it, I take whatever's there propping it because it's not safe. And the other thing is any door, and it's kind of odd downstairs because they all have the safety doors down there, which I don't quite understand. But the fire marshal said it's okay down there to prop those doors open inside the building, but we should not have doors to the outside propped. There's really no rationale behind it whatsoever. You know, critters get in, insects get in, and if somebody were to walk up to our school, they can get in. And you know, so you know, the argument from a teacher standpoint, because I completely understand, is that if I'm outside on the playground and I can't get back in, now what do I do? So that's why we need to accelerate this process. So I reached out to them actually yesterday to say, hey, you know, this is getting, you know, old. I need to get this taken care of, kind of thing. So it should not be. So when I see it, when I tell a teacher, I just say, you know, don't do that anymore.
What time frame did they give you for that?
He said he was going to try to get somebody out here this week.
Okay.
So that's my hope. Now, whether that happens or not,
sure,
that's a whole other ballgame.
You didn't promise.
Yeah, but that's my hope. Go ahead.
Buzz to come in the front door, and there are 5 people behind me. Am I supposed to say, I'm sorry, you have to leave the door closed?
Yeah, and you know that could happen. I would say it's probably going to be a rarity, but yeah, we're going to have to do that, and it's going to have to stop this. And that's a courtesy thing, you know, hold the door for somebody. But I think we're going to probably have to try to do that the best we can. Now, is it going to always happen? No, because there's going to be some people that aren't going to buy into that, and we're going to have to figure out a way. But because there won't be a staff member standing at that door. So if a parent does let another person in, you know, there's nothing we can do about that, but except to communicate, hey, please understand that this is the policy, you know, and we'll have to just try to reinforce it the best we can that way. But that absolutely could be an issue at any place that has that situation. Even at my child's daycare when they were 5 years old, they had a buzzing system, and all the time people held the door for me.
Yeah, well, I mean, at Torrance Creek,
Yeah.
we didn't have a buzzing system, but people expected you to
Right.
come and open the door for them,
Right.
even if you had no idea who they were.
No, absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Has there been any thought about what the camera and buzz-in system, what the impact will be for the front office staff?
You know, I'm sure that it's come into play. It was a huge concern at my previous school, and it would be a huge concern if Torrance Creek was as large as it was, or if we were that big. Because we were trying to figure out how to man it.
Right.
I think that they're aware of it, you know, at the larger schools, but I'm not sure that it's going to stop them from moving forward on the process. They're not giving us extra secretaries, you know. The biggest suggestion, yeah, and what we try to do is in-house, you know, Miss Allison or I or Miss Allen will go up and cover the office if necessary, and there's different times. So you just have, basically the recommendation from most is you can use volunteers, or you guys have to figure out how to handle it. You know, so we'll deal with it. I don't think it's going to be as massive as an issue as it would have been if we had 1,100 families or 1,100 students, but it's still going to be an issue. Any school that has a high volunteer rate. Now, the other thing is, you know, if we know a parent, it's going to be a lot quicker of a process. You know, if we don't know the parents, when you're going to start asking for IDs and things of that nature. But if we know the parent, and if I see who the parent is and I recognize who the person is, you know, there's going to be a quicker access point to that. So it may not take as much time. But yeah, it's going to be a burden on Wanda. There's no question.
So you think IDs through the camera?
We're going to have to look and see what the graininess of it is. You know, that, again, you're going to have something, because if I don't know who you are, and again, I'm only going through my brain on this. Until we actually see it in action, you really don't know. But if I can, I probably will, because once I access the building for a parent, if I don't know, even if once I access to a building to an adult, may not even be a parent if I don't know who they are,
Right.
they're in. So we have to figure out how to handle that situation. So I don't know how grainy the video camera is going to be. If we can do it through it, I'm going to try. At least we can match a name to a child and make sure that it's not an issue with a custody situation or things like that. But again, that's a small percentage of people. The majority of families that are in and out of the building on a regular basis, we know, or Wanda knows already from Torrance Creek. Wanda is going to have a far better spectrum of who knows who than me. But I get better every day that I'm out front with kids. I get to see more faces, and I can start to, oh, okay, I know that person, and I can start to feel more comfortable with situations, because that has been the hardest part for me, going from a situation where for 6 years I was at a site and I knew every single person, except for kindergarten or a new person that comes in at a grade level, but I knew the majority of my folks. Now going into a situation where I knew, about 20 coming in between SLT and, the naming committees and things like that. So that has been a learning curve for me. So I know faces better, but I'm still not good with names. So we're working on it. But
Do you know any update on our volunteer badges?
just got asked over here. No, they're just not in yet. Yeah, I don't know. They're just not in yet. So to me, it's really not a huge issue. You come and get a sticker. It's not a big deal to me. But I don't know where they're at. We'll check on it, because there's been multiple calls to the office about it recently. So we'll check. Life Touch, I don't know where they have them at. Anything else about safety? Yes, go ahead. No, you're fine. It's important.
Do they have in the works a fence for that big house?
No. And this has come up a couple times as well. What we're probably going to have to do is, once the PTA moves into phase 2 of kind of getting their feet on the ground, it's obviously going to be an area that we need to look at. We don't have people close to the road over there, but
Yes,
I would feel more comfortable having something
I
involved.
was driving and I saw this teacher. She was chasing a ball into the street.
Down here?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so there
here.
really should never be anybody that close to it. That's such a big area. There's plenty of room where you can handle it without having to be anywhere near the street. But with that being said, we should have something anyway.
Yeah, at least some bushes
Yeah.
or something to stop
Yeah.
it.
But it's CMS and the construction had nothing there. There's a couple areas that I question. There's also, if you've ever been, and this is really not a safety as in get hit by a car kind of situation, but on the bus lot, there's a fence behind the basketball hoops that stops. So a kid could go around it, for one thing, if they, which is to me not necessarily the safest thing, but two, the fence isn't very high, so if you're not a very good basketball player, it's going down into this ravine. So, there's a couple things that, I think they could have, they could have figured out some things how to handle a little better. So I don't know the answers to some of that, but we are going to have to talk about that. It was one of the first things that I noticed. And then, I think part of it will come in. We're trying to get some grants to make that more of a learning area. So once we have it kind of designed, I think we can really secure that place coming in. And then, in all honesty, there's probably a few other places we could put fencing up if we chose. It's not cheap. I did it at my previous school. I don't know if you've ever been to JV Washam, but there's a long, winding drive that goes into the school. On both sides, you will see fence now. When we got there was none. So kids, when they were playing on the bus lot, even for the basketball hoops, balls would roll into the street. So our PTA funded it all the way up, both sides, and we had entry points and a crosswalk so kids could come across. So we are going to have to play with that. Yeah, absolutely.
I just wanted to speak to, that's absolutely part of the PTA plan. We're just trying to put things into a 5-year plan, because it all costs a lot, and as many grants as we're trying to get, we're still going to probably have to ask parents for some money at some point.
Yeah. Yes.
I was just thinking, grant aside, that maybe, I know my husband, her husband, my husband, her husband, and probably her husband would be willing to each buy a cypress tree and come and plant it, and on a Sunday.
Yeah, the thing with planting, good question. No, that's a good point. The first year, we're not allowed to plant because the warranty covered with the new school They are covering all of our landscaping for year one, the company that put it all in. So if we start plugging in all this other stuff, then we get in this really odd situation. Well, that's not mine, that's mine, and I'm not going to have a clue. And so they've asked us for year one until the warranty is settled, because right now, if anything dies on this property, they have to replace it. So it absolutely could be an option if we go shrubs or whatever. You know, those are all, I think it's all going to be doable, and it's going to happen probably faster than I would imagine in my head, because it took a while, you know, because it is not cheap if you go fence. But we're going to handle it. But in the meantime, that really should never happen, so I will talk to teachers about that. There's enough space there that we really should never have a ball that close to the road. I mean, unless somebody just kicked it straight to the street. I mean, that doesn't, you know, that should never happen. I don't want a kid, and I don't want a teacher to get hit by a car either.
Big balls that way.
Yeah, no, that absolutely should never happen. That's kind of an update on safety. The other thing I wanted to really share, the other big thing I had, and I'll just open it up for questions after that, is I want to talk to you a little bit about BYOT. I actually two things, BYOT and then end of grade tests. BYOT is bring your own technology to school. We are going to start this with our 5th graders, but it's going to be a process. And what that means is that there's going to be times that we're going to say it's okay for children to have electronic devices in the classroom, of their personal devices to use for research and different things. That does not mean it's going to be a Starbucks where kids are going to be texting, playing games, doing whatever they want in the classroom setting. So I'm going to show, I'll post some videos and different things that you can see kind of the process, but we're going to start with 5th grade. It's small. We can kind of work our kinks out and then come down from there. That doesn't mean other kids don't have access to technology. What that means is they're not bringing their personal devices in. So in K-5, starting day 1, everybody's had 10 iPads in the classroom. Everybody has a projector system in the classroom. No, we don't have smart boards. CMS is not putting smart boards in schools anymore. And honestly, I don't like smart boards at all. The reason I don't like smart boards is because it anchors teachers to the front of the classroom even more. Because if I have a smart board, I have to stay here to manipulate the smart board. What we have is something I think that will be even better once we learn how to use it. Now, yesterday the teachers were, part of our teaching staff was trained in the process. It was voluntary, so I think we had about 13 teachers come yesterday. We do something called Technology Tuesdays at our school, where we introduce new tech to people that are ready for new tech. And basically Apple Television, if you don't know what it is a small box. It's actually that small black box right on top of that projector right there. And it's a little square about this big. And it allows you to reflect your iPad on the screen. So what it will allow a teacher to do once they become good at it, and I've already seen some teachers start to use it and it works well, is that I as a teacher could walk around my classroom, and if I wanted to, I could pull up an application that's a whiteboard on my iPad, and I can hand it to this child and say, solve X problem. They'll solve the problem on the whiteboard. I can have her reflect it, and it'll come up on the screen, no matter where she is, wirelessly. And then I could do that with another child. So what I've been starting to see as I go into classrooms, just to kind of give you a vision of what you can use it for, is in math class oftentimes teachers will have a warm-up. So what I started talking to some of my 5th grade teachers about, and 4th grade teachers about, is, well, when you start your warm-up, is hand out 10 iPads to 10 random kids when they come in, and just kind of, you know, and then when they do their warm-up, they do their warm-up on the whiteboard on the iPad. Everybody else does it in their math journals. So when it's time to talk about the warm-up problem, instead of going through the traditional process of, okay, you did it in your journal, now come up to the board, write the problem, solve the problem, now you have it already done, and I could say, Jimmy, go ahead and show me how you got problem 1. You hit reflect, it pulls up on the projector, and now Jimmy can walk through all of his work's already there, and it's more efficient. So there's a lot of cool ways you can use it. If it's a project, you're working on a collaborative activity, and you see a team that maybe is not doing as great as they could be doing, I could easily say, Carrie, why don't you reflect what your team's doing right now on your project on the screen so I can see how you're doing. Click. Now I have accountability.